Welcome to the Golf Report podcast. I'm joined by teaching professional Kelli Murphy. Kelli, how are you doing? And thanks for your time.
Absolutely. Happy to be here. Thanks so much.
Yeah, so just tell me, how are things going for you right now, and just how were your holidays?
Things are going great. I just got back to Auburn. I was gone for 10 days. I was in South Carolina with my family for five, and then I was in Florida for 5 days with my fiance who lives down there.
Yeah, how was it, just getting to be back in South Carolina, with your family? And then how was it, spend time with your fiance?
Home was great. It's always good. It's just me and
Mhm.
my parents there, so we had a really good time. I was able to help them with some stuff around the house and just spend a lot of quality time. Florida was also great. My fiance is also a golfer, so we got to play a little bit of golf down there with him and his family and spend some time together. So just a lot of good quality family time over the break.
That's great.
Thanks.
So you're originally from Boston, I hear, is that correct? I see.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So just tell me about being from Boston, and, do you ever get to go to Boston, or not too often since, your parents now live in South Carolina?
Yeah, well, my parents retired. My dad's retired law enforcement. He was a detective sergeant with the Brookline Police Department and like ran a task force with DEA. So
Okay.
he retired and he was like, "All right, it's time for us to go." And he loved golf, so my parents were like, "All right, South Carolina sounds perfect." So we moved down there when I was 8, and I actually moved back for a little bit. I really thought I missed New England, so once I finished Auburn and finished grad school, I moved back to Boston for about 2 years right before COVID hit. And I learned very quickly that I did not miss New England. It was a lot colder than I expected. I had forgotten all the elements of living in the Northeast as an adult, rather through like the wondrous eyes of a kid, and like a white Christmas and what that truly means being an adult, having to shovel your driveway and figure out so many other things from being up there. So I was there for a brief stint and then moved back to Alabama.
Yeah. So we mentioned you grew up in South Carolina. You grew up playing at Wood Creek Golf Club. So when you go back to South Carolina, you get just tell me about some of the courses you play at, and do you get to play at Wood Creek when you're
Yeah,
back
I
in South Carolina?
I love the courses in South Carolina. I've grown up playing so many around. Like since playing the South Carolina Junior Golf Association is a fantastic junior golf organization. So we got to play in tournaments all around the states. We were very familiar. Unfortunately, I don't get to play at Wood Creek anymore. They
Okay.
got taken over by new membership, um, and we're not members there anymore. But we
Okay.
switched to where we played in high school for our matches, which is Camden Country Club. So it's a little Donald Ross course with really tiny upside down bowl greens. It's incredibly challenging no matter what level of golf I rose to. That course was still very humbling and challenging, and it's in great shape. So we'll go and play there when I go home.
Yeah. So I talk a lot of, college golf. I talk to a lot of, current, college golfers, and you were a college golfer yourself. In college golf, you take a 3 month break. You play the fall season, then you get 3 months off. November, December, and January, and then you start the spring season in February. For most teams. But for you, just tell me, how was it, taking a 3 month break off from college golf, and what are some of the things you would work on during the winter, like in the 3 month break, I've talked to some, like prioritizing, just getting rest and getting ready for a busy, 3 or 4 months in the spring. Would you ever play in tournaments during the winter? Or would you just like to take a break, during the winter months? And what are some of the things you would work on, during your break from college golf?
Yeah, it was actually a requirement that we had to play in a tournament in our during our 3 month stint just to kind of stay sharp and stay competitive.
Okay.
So that was definitely a requirement, not as heavy on the competition as before, but definitely at least one to stay tuned up. People say, they call it a break, but it's never really a break in golf. You're always working on something. The winter season and those 3 months are a fantastic time to go back to look at your stats from the fall, analyze where you can be better for the spring, what areas you need to work on. And winter is usually prioritizing a lot of block practice. So fundamentals, and if you need to make a swing change, if you need to get new clubs, if you need to work on a particular statistic, the winter is the time to really grind on your block practice and fundamentals so you can get back into your competition mode in the spring with hopefully some better results and stats.
Yeah. Do you remember some of the winter tournaments that you'd play at, when you were in college?
Yes, my favorite one to play in was the Carolinas. There was part of the Carolinas Golf Association. It was the Mid-Am it was in Pinehurst. Forget, maybe it was at Mid Pines Country Club, but it was always between Christmas and New Year's, and it was freezing. There was a guaranteed frost delay every time you were there. One time, I kid you not, the greens were frozen, and if you dropped a ball from shoulder height, it would just ricochet right back up like it was the cart path. It took a little bit of time for the course to thaw out, but I'll never forget going to Pinehurst and playing in that winter tournament hosted by the CGA.
Yeah. So you're also an instructor now currently. So let's talk about, some things, golfers should work on during the winter. So you're obviously in Alabama right now in Auburn.
Mhm.
You can probably play outdoors there. The courses are open, but you've also, grew up and you worked a little bit in Boston. Obviously Boston in the winter, courses are closed. You probably can't play. So you've seen both perspectives, but for someone, let's say you can't play outdoors, you're in a place in New England like Boston. Just what are some things, a golfer should work on during the winter to get ready, for the spring?
Yeah, so if you're totally limited and you don't have the opportunity to be outside at all, some things you can do inside. Putting is usually pretty easy to work on for your fundamentals inside, either on a putting mat or a putting arc, or anything you can work on your club face alignment as well as your path, and keeping those square is great. So those are relatively easy to work on inside. In terms of not being able to swing, there's so many good drills if you work with an instructor to get your movement patterns better. And just, I wish more people understood the importance of just proper body mechanics rather than needing to go hit 5 bags of balls in a land speed record. There's so many things you can do inside just to ensure your technique is solid. That will help more than you realize.
Yeah. Then just generally, what's some advice you would give to a golfer, during the winter? Because even if you can't play outdoors, there's less tournaments. Like even if you lived in like a Florida, let's say, there's less tournaments in the winter, a bulk of the tournaments are in the summer and spring. So, just generally what's some advice, you would give to golfers, during the winter?
My best advice, if you do get to go practice, like make your practice challenging. Um, so many people go play and they go hit 2, 3 buckets of balls and they chip and putt a little bit and they leave. But that might not have been the highest quality of practice that they could have given themselves. Like good practice is made up of a couple different elements. Um, so for a more advanced player, if you're playing like a small percentage of your practice is going to be block practice where you're checking your technique and your fundamentals. Then you'll move right into random variable, which is like changing clubs, changing flags, changing your lies, changing the hole you're hitting at, XYZ. And then a certain element of your practice too should involve like testing, or we call it transfer practice, like picturing what that would be like on the course, like pick 2 flags and try and hit between them, until your pile of balls is gone. If you miss, add 2 balls back to your pile, like something that'll be mentally challenging. That'll force you to really lock in and focus on a task and a challenge rather than just mindlessly hitting balls.
Yeah. Then final thing, about the winter and the off season. When you were a college athlete, how often would you, play and practice during the winter?
Ooh, maybe still 5, 6 days a week, to be honest with you.
Okay.
We'd go out probably in the, you know, 11 to 1 range, hopefully in like the heat of the day, quote,
So
quote.
at Auburn, the weather, was okay, or at least good enough to go outdoors and play and practice. And also, did you have, good facilities there at Auburn?
The facilities were the biggest thing that drew me to come play at Auburn. Like we have an incredible practice facility. We've got I haven't they've done a lot of changes to it recently, so it's even better than when I was there. But 3 indoor bays, each with TrackMan and Swing Catalyst, so really weather dependent. You can go and hit balls no matter what, either covered or uncovered bays. Down in the back, or I think we've got an uneven hill, so you can practice different wedge lies. One, two, three, 4 different greens, all with different types of grass on them, sand with different types of sand in them, different wedge pods to hit at. So many opportunities to practice at Auburn. It's just a stunning facility.
Yeah. Did you have a home course there at Auburn?
Yep, we were at the Auburn University course.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
so it was neat. It's still a private course. It wasn't attached to the university, although like it did bear the name, but like students can't go play or anything.
Oh, okay. Students can't play, but it's mostly just for the team.
Uh, no,
Oh,
it had a private membership.
oh, okay.
But we would that would be one of the courses. We played at all of the courses in town. Auburn's a nice little bubble, or I think we have at least six different courses in town that we're able to go play at.
Okay. And was your home course, was it anywhere near campus?
It was about 10 minutes.
Okay.
Um, I lived just further down the street, so it was a pretty easy drive to get on up there. We're
Okay.
fortunate that I know a lot of schools have to drive a lot further to get to their facility, and we had the good fortune of ours being so close by.
Okay. Yeah, I asked that because I know, some teams, a big sticking point for them is, having their facilities on campus. Um, yeah, that's great that you had, a home course and good facilities at Auburn.
Yeah.
Um, so you're originally from Boston. I believe we were just talking about this. And you moved to South Carolina. So just tell me about, what was it like to move, from Boston to South Carolina? Tell me about when did you move and just how was the transition, going
We
from New England to South
we
Carolina?
moved. Of course, yeah, we moved when I was 8 years old. Like I said, my parents retired, so I started second grade here in the South. It was honestly a really big culture shock being from New England to the South. I'll never forget, like, just everyone wants to know your college team, and who you're rooting for. Like in that area, it was South Carolina or Clemson, and I went New England Patriots, and no one had
Okay.
any idea what I meant, and I didn't know what they meant either. There was other examples of like my teacher told me to put my book up, and I didn't know that put it up meant put it away, so I just held it up in the air. In what she thought was an act of pure defiance. And my innocence was going, she said, put it up, and I put it up in the air. So just a switch from northern to southern culture was a big shock. Probably more so for my parents than me. I learned to adjust pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Just having friends in school, but for them, I'm sure it was quite different.
Yeah. Just tell me about, how did you get started playing golf and, what age did you begin playing golf?
It was entirely my dad. My dad loved golf, or still does actually. So my dad loves golf. And being in law enforcement, like he would just get off and go to the golf course and play. Um, and so he would just pick me up from when we moved down here, he was retired and my mom was the one still working. So he would pick me up and we would go to the golf course every single day after school because that was what he loved to do. And fortunately, I fell in love with it as well. But that was just something we did every single day. He would pick me up, we would go to the course and play and practice. I started when I was 5 and I started tournaments when I was 8.
Okay. Yeah. Just tell me about, some of the, we'll talk about some of your success, but just tell me about some of your favorite, junior and amateur tournaments, you played in, growing up in South Carolina.
Yeah, well, like I said before, the South Carolina Junior Golf Association is
Mhm.
fantastic. And as a kid, there were always the tournaments that you would go to monthly, and that's where I got to meet some of my best friends in the world. Like my maid of honor, and our upcoming wedding is it was someone I met playing junior golf tournaments as a kid every year. So it was really special to me, that organization and all of the opportunities that they provided, um, and the tournaments that they had. The Carolinas Golf Association was also great in the tournaments that they hosted, so we got to play a lot in South
Mhm.
and North Carolina through that. Um, I was fortunate enough to play in the U.S. Junior Girls twice. One year I made it to the quarterfinals out in San Francisco. That was really special to me. And then I also got to play in the USAM in Charleston, and that was a great experience as well. So a lot of cool opportunities. In addition to all of the courses we played in college and all of the places we got to go was incredible.
Yeah. So two things I just thought of, just tell me about how special that was to play a USAM, in Charleston. I believe that's your home state. So just tell me how
It was
special that
cool.
was.
Yeah,
And
I had a
then,
lot.
oh
Yep.
yeah.
No, go ahead.
Then I just wanted to talk about, just tell me if you had any other juniors, you grew up playing with or any friends you made through junior golf.
Oh my gosh, honestly, too many friends to list through junior golf. Like so many girls I still keep in contact with now. Um, that was a core, like a large part of my friend group as a kid was just girls that I grew up playing golf with, and
Yeah,
still keep in touch and talk to today. So honestly, too many to name, but the playing in the USAM in Charleston was really special. I had a lot of friends and family friends come out and watch and support, and even some friends from high school drove down to watch me go play in it. So that was a really cool experience, kind of having like that home state feel of having people come and watch and like start to understand the gravity of like, wow, that's so cool. You're getting to go play in this awesome experience, and we're finally getting to kind of see you in action and see what you do on this scale, which is really neat.
yeah. So some of your success, growing up in South Carolina, you won two junior championships. You won the 2017 women's floorball. But just tell me about some of your success, in your home state, South Carolina, and just, what did this success, mean for you?
Success for me is, I mean, I've always been, just commit to the process and the results will take care of themselves. I mean,
Mhm.
that's kind of my motto in teaching,
Yeah,
and how I like to play as well. Like if you are focused on what you need to do and not on the people around you, and not on how other people are playing, it's yourself versus the course, and it's yourself, versus your stats and trying to get better every single time you go out there. And if you follow your own process, like I said, the results will take care of themselves. And fortunately, I was able to find a lot of success in junior golf, with the amount that I practiced and pushed myself to become a better player.
yeah. Do you have any favorite, memories from, growing up playing junior or amateur golf?
A ton, yeah. Yeah, trying to narrow it down. One that stands out from amateur golf, one of my favorite ones is I played in the US, or no, the South Carolina State Am right after I graduated college in 2018. I was riding my bike in Auburn the week before, and it bruised my foot pretty
Okay.
bad. I could barely walk, so but I couldn't wear a golf shoe, but I could wear a sandal. So I played in that tournament with one golf shoe, one sandal. Um, it was on the 15th hole at Wood Creek Farms. I have three hole in ones. They're all on that singular hole. I've never had any outside of that hole. And on that day, it was my birthday, and I made a hole in one wearing one golf shoe, one sandal on my birthday. Shot a 66 and won the tournament. So that was one of my favorite memories from amateur golf, and that was a really special one to me.
Yeah. So you were talking about, you bruised your foot. Is that correct?
Yep.
I think that's a good, topic we should talk about. So, just overcoming injury and, dealing with injury, how do you navigate, dealing with an injury and just, how are you able to overcome it and then, compete in tournament?
Injuries are super
Yeah.
frustrating.
Mhm.
Obviously, as an athlete, you spend all this time preparing for your sport and getting ready to compete, and an injury can really take you down. I was always back up as quickly as I could. I remember another time in college, I sprained my ankle, um, and just had to wear a brace and competed, like had a push cart and was still able to go and play. So I push the limits of my injuries and try to get back out there as quickly as possible. But um, it is a mentally challenging time because you spend all this time perfecting your craft, and then you've got to focus on keeping yourself and well and healing back up and making sure you can compete and perform at that same level that you were at.
Yeah. So you played on the boys team, I think this is another, interesting topic to discuss. You played on the boys team at Lugoff Elgin High School.
Yeah,
Um,
Legal Belgian. Yep.
yeah, you were co-captain your junior and senior years. But just tell me about getting to play with the boys. What was it like, playing on the boys team? And then tell me about, getting to be co-captain, in high school.
I was so fortunate to have an
Mhm.
awesome group of guys around me. I had a really great experience playing on the boys' team.
Mhm.
A lot of them just felt like older brothers to be around. They were super kind and really
Yeah,
welcoming to me, which was not our experience when we would go and play other teams. They all had my back, and I knew that they did, which was fantastic. I joined the team in seventh grade, so
okay.
I started playing on the varsity team in seventh grade, which was crazy. But it was so fun. The courses were so long because we had to play the back tees, which
Mhm.
for me, not hitting it very far was a big challenge. So that's where I developed a lot of my short game technique that that still sticks with me today. That's what in part made me really successful in college too, was having a really strong short game and the ability to scramble. Not hitting greens didn't bother me. I knew that I could get up and down, no problem. The distances were super long. I think my 1 year we made it to state, which was really cool. And that was a great experience. But we'd rock up and other teams would be like, oh my gosh, they have a girl on the team. And then they'd be like, oh my gosh, that girl's playing number one on the team. Like they just other teams didn't know how to cope or deal with it. But I'm so fortunate for the guys I had around me. They were the best, and I'm still in contact with a lot of them today.
Yeah. So you were allowed to play on, the high school team in seventh grade, is that correct?
Yeah, I like the rules have changed a lot since then, and
Okay.
I think they have a girls team now. And a couple of years after I had left, um, there was like new rules in place that the girls had to play with the girls, and the boys with the boys. But I was just so early onto it that they just allowed me to do it, which was great.
Yeah. So let's talk more about that, just, what was it like, playing in high school as a seventh grader, and just what was it like, for you? Like, how did you deal with, being the youngest and player in some of your, high school tournaments?
It was really intimidating,
Mhm.
to be honest with you, playing against a lot of these older guys.
Yeah.
But again, I had my teammates around me, and you know, at the end of the day, it's golf and you're playing the course, so it doesn't really matter who you're playing with. Um, everybody's got to play the same course and get the ball in the hole. And I just decided to focus on that and not let anything else really bother me or be super worried about my surroundings. We're all there. We all got a job to do. So my job was to get the ball in the hole.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
that's what I did. And then we would go to McDonald's on the way home with our team and, celebrate wins, losses, or whatever, and have a good time together.
Yeah. So next topic, Kelly, I wanted to touch on, is advice for junior golfers. You obviously, teach and work with a lot of junior golfers. You played Division I golf at Auburn, which we'll talk about shortly. But first off, just talk about, some advice you would give to a junior golfer, let's say, junior golfers like age, 10 to 12, 14, kind of in the prime of their career. First off, what's some advice you would give to a junior golfer, just getting started, playing golf or looking to get into golf?
Just getting started or looking into golf. Be
Mhm.
patient with yourself
Yeah.
and have fun. This is not one you see a lot of kids come in, and if you have it's really challenging to work with perfectionist
Mm.
tendencies and things like that. If they get really frustrated with themselves quickly, it's hard to help them progress because you're really focused on like maintaining a good attitude and making sure that they're happy and having a good time. And on those kiddos, it's hard to see a lot of progress
Yeah.
because you're focused on so many different factors. So if you're willing to put the work in and know that it's not going to be good at the beginning, those are the kids who you see rise really fast and do really well.
Yeah. And then on the flip side, let's say, junior golfers in their prime, let's say like, age, let's say 13 to 14, in the prime of their junior career. They're, competing and, doing pretty well. And they have the aspirations, to maybe, play Division I golf, someday. What advice would you give to them, in terms of their growth, what tournaments should they play in, and just when, should they be reaching out or reaching
Yeah,
out to coaches and just, looking at what schools maybe they want to play at.
100%. They should be developing like a golf resume, which is stats on their tournaments that they're playing.
Yeah.
If you're really serious about playing at the highest level, like look at the fifth man on the team and their scoring stats, see where you start to stack up, see if you could have aspirations and goals of having a scoring average that would put you in the starting lineup at the schools that you're looking at. Make a list of the places you want to go. Start emailing and talking to coaches. Don't let your parents do it. You have to do it yourself. That's what they'll look for. The Still, if you're really serious about a school and contacting them, contact them with good and bad results. They don't want to hear from you if you're just doing really well. If you did have not a great round, what they want to see is grit and resilience of like, hey, I didn't, and ownership, right? Like, I didn't have my best round today. I, three putted X amount of times. Here's what I'm going to do to fix it and move on. So, like, you've got a plan, you've got a strategy for improvement to move on, and they want to see that as well. Um, so keep in contact with them for sure. Don't wait. Um, what else? Being coachable
Yeah.
is the biggest thing that you look for. If coaches are out watching you, they're also going to watch how you treat your parents. A lot of really high recruits can play at a really good level. Coaches have watched them in the parking lot being mean and snippy to their parents, didn't want to recruit the kid anymore. Um, a lot of, your attitude makes a big difference, how you handle bad shots, how you carry yourself. Not only, successful players make it far, but really good people make it far.
Yeah. And talk, let's talk more about the, when coaches you're out there recruiting or watching you, what advice would you give or, how did you deal with, the nerves, when coaches are out there, recruiting or watching, what
Oh
advice would
yeah.
you give to a junior golfer, dealing with the nerves, when a
Oh,
coach is out there, watching them or
it
recruiting them?
is it is so nerve-wracking. It's unbelievable. The first time Coach Evans watched me from Auburn, I was so nervous. I just snap hooked my drive straight into the woods. And I went, well, there's my chances of going to Auburn. Uh, I just immediately wrote myself out of it. I was so nervous. So I, punched out, chipped on the green, made an up and down, went to the next hole. She's still watching. Again, I was so nervous, hit it in the trees on the other side. And I was like, well, there it goes. But it wasn't like she saw my short game and she saw my ability to scramble. And that was one of the things that she said attracted her to my game was that it was gritty. And if you're nervous, it's all about how you conduct yourself when you're hitting a good or bad shot. Like anchoring is really important. If you hit a bad one, like stay calm, put the club back in the bag, like mentally get right that you're going to go grind and do the best you can after that. The coaches look for that. They see that. If you get really down and have your head down and you act agitated and nervous, they're going to notice that. And that's one thing that they're going to see like, ooh, they might not handle these challenging situations very well. So no matter the nerves, no matter what you think you're doing in your head might not be true. Um, she still gave me a shot. Um, and you never know what they're looking for. So keep your head
Yeah.
up.
You talked about it, composure, after hitting a bad shot, what advice would you give or, how would you keep your composure, after a bad shot?
Well, I mean, we're people, not robots, right? So we're always going to have a reaction, no matter what. But it's about getting over that feeling. The best players forget the shots the fastest, good or bad, like a goldfish, right? The less you can dwell on things in the past, the better.
Yeah.
So if you do experience have that really bad shot, like you're allowed your moment, like take your reaction, like, man, I'm so frustrated. I didn't think about the wind. Man, I chunked it. That swing was not very good, right? But like chalk it up to why. Like, oh, I chunked it because that's my miss and I did this in my swing. Dang. All
Yeah.
right. Like, and allowing yourself like a period of time where you can get over it. Like if you're walking the course, all right, say I'm going to stew about it until I put my bag down for my next shot. When you put that bag down on the next shot, or when you pull that driver out of the bag, or when you do X, Y, and Z, you've got to be over it. Like you can't hit one shot as a reaction to the last shot. That's setting you up for failure. So you've got to mentally find your routine to process and flush that shot out.
Yeah. So a few more questions, I wanted to touch on about, advice for juniors. I think this is a good one. It can, depend upon, several factors, individually, whether you can, travel or afford to travel for tournaments. But do you think for a junior it's better just to, play in the bigger, national tournaments? So you mentioned you played in an AM, and you played in some big national tournaments. Do you think it's good for a junior just to play in the biggest name tournaments that they can qualify for? Or do you think it's better for them just to have success in, playing local, junior tournaments? Or do you think it's good for a junior to have a mixture of both, local tournaments and, big time national tournaments where they can get exposure, to college coaches?
That's that's a really good question, and something that we talk a lot about with parents. I can only speak to my own personal experience.
Yeah.
We stayed local. Again, we were fortunate to have an incredible golf association. So playing in South Carolina provided me an opportunity to still have really strong competition and play against some of the better players. I did not play national junior tournaments.
Okay.
Um, Also, so if you're looking to play, like coaches will not really focus on high school golf. That's not a great indicator of success or how kids will do in college. Like you need to be playing other tournaments. From my own experience, I focused on being the best I could in the state, um, being ranked number one in the Carolinas, um, trying to be ranked number one in South Carolina. I focused a lot on having a really high, like, local ranking. And then I focused on USGA events because USGA events are a great indicator of how you're doing. So, like the US Junior Girls, US Junior Boys, um, or trying to qualify for amateur events, so like the USAM or the US Open, and going and playing those are really important to do. If you have the financial ability to go play in other tours, great. Um, but I don't think that if you don't have the means to do that, that doesn't mean you can't be successful with where you're at. Like I'm walking proof of that. As I worked really hard locally and qualified for a couple national, like USGA events, which was really key. And that helped me achieve and find my success.
Yeah. So Kelly, if I say, how can we get more juniors, to play golf, or, how can we get more juniors just to enjoy the game of golf? What would be your answer, or, what advice would you give, just to getting more juniors, involved in, enjoying the game of golf?
Yeah, parents need to keep it fun. A lot of kids like don't have the attention span or ability to make it out for all 18 holes. Like, play 9 holes and keep it fun. I can tell you my favorite things about playing golf as a kid was the orange soda and the ice cream that I got at the end. So like a lot of parents need to realize it's a great uh, quality time or quality way, good, great way to spend quality time with your kids. Make it fun for them. Don't make it a chore, something they have to go do. Don't make it last too long. Don't harp on mistakes. If they want to get out there and have a good time and they have a knack for it, then you can start looking into how to support them and get them lessons and how to help them be better. But in the beginning, when kids are exposed to it, it's got to be fun for them.
Yeah. So let's now talk about, obviously you played at Auburn. You went to Auburn. So first off, was your goal always to play at Auburn, or were you looking at other schools to attend?
My
Um,
goal wasn't always Auburn. I was
okay.
recruited by a number of schools, but as always, as a young kid, like, you never really know what you want. So I was kind
Yeah.
of all over the map, and where I wanted to play. But when I really started to narrow it down, making college visits was really helpful to go see the environment and see where I would be. And again, after seeing the practice facilities at Auburn, that's what's really drove me to want to be here.
Yeah. Just tell me more, when did you first have coaches, start recruiting you? When did you, first reach out to coaches? And for, someone who's, in the recruiting process, do you think it's good for them, just to be solely focused on one school, or do you think it's good, for a junior golfer to, have many different options in terms of, what school they want to attend?
It's definitely good to have options.
Yeah.
It's not great to put all your eggs in one basket, just in terms of you
In your
never.
experience, did you have many different options or many different schools you were looking at attending, or were you just solely focused, when you wanted to attend Auburn?
I had about 6 options
Hmm.
and places that I was looking at, um, and through visits narrowed it down to Auburn. So I had options
Yeah.
that I was looking at. It's good to have options because once you get to a school, you need to consider, like, A, if you're a good fit for that school, B, if you
Yeah.
like it, like, C, you need to chat with the coaches, see the current team, see if you would be a fit, see if you enjoy the practice facilities, see if the school has the major and the things you want. Like, there's so many things to consider besides just playing golf for that school. So you kind of don't know what you want and what you need unless you take a look around at everything and start to determine that too for yourself.
Hmm. Yeah, and back to my first point, just tell me a little about how the recruiting process worked for you. Like, when did you first have, coaches, either reaching out to you or start recruiting you? And then when did you first start, reaching out to coaches?
I started reaching out to coaches my sophomore year.
Okay.
And then there's a rule, it's like November
Yeah.
1st of your junior year where they can contact you. So over the course of the year prior, I had been emailing and results to, and like not keeping in contact because they're not allowed to respond, but getting on the radar of places that I was interested in and sending them my golf resume and tournament results and like leaving them voicemails and such. There were a lot of recruiting rules that you had to follow. I know that the game has changed a lot since being in school, and I'm not totally up on what that would be like today. But
Yeah,
that was my experience was sophomore year reaching out to coaches, junior year, them reaching out to me and contacting me if they were interested and starting that relationship there.
yeah. And then finally about recruiting, just what advice, or what did you learn about the recruiting process? Like what advice would you give to like let's say a junior golfer, choosing what college they want to go to or just, navigating the recruiting process.
Again, my biggest advice is you should be the one to reach out to the schools. They do not want to hear from your parents. So take
Okay.
ownership of yourself and your game. A lot of schools will have questionnaires that you can fill out to get on their radar that shows that you're interested in the school. So fill out questionnaires, make regular emails to those coaches that you're interested in to stay on their radar, um, and just take ownership of your game. Be the one
Yeah.
to reach out.
So you attended Auburn. Just tell me a little bit about what drew you to Auburn, initially.
Again, the practice facilities here were the best I'd encountered over any of the schools that I'd looked at, and I still stand behind that. I think we have an incredible facility here.
Yeah. And how did you navigate, the start of your college career? How did you just navigate, starting playing college golf and just attending Auburn?
It was a big change.
Mhm.
It's a huge change. I came out of state and didn't have any friends that I took from high school here, so it was pretty much starting over, starting anew. And it was a big adjustment to be on your own and figure out your classes and practice schedule and getting yourself everywhere you needed to be on time as a college athlete was just probably the biggest challenge of all.
Yeah. So a highlight, from your time at Auburn, you played in every tournament throughout your career. So, you had to go through, obviously you had to stay healthy, you had to, your game had to be sharp, you had to, be successful in qualifying. So just tell me a little bit about how you felt, like how were you able to, remain consistent, play in every tournament throughout your career at Auburn, because that's something, very difficult to do. Even some of the best players, go in and out of the lineup, but you're always in the lineup. So just tell me how were you able to stay consistent and play in every tournament throughout your career?
Thanks. Yeah, I was super grateful. Again, follow the process and the results will take care of themselves. They had a really, really great qualifying system at Auburn, so it wasn't, we'd play a couple of rounds and my game was just steady. And my scoring average remained pretty steady throughout my time here. And fortunately, that allowed me to qualify for a lot of the tournaments. Um, yeah, I was able to stay healthy, invest in my game and myself, and thankfully it paid off.
Yeah. So overall, just how was your time at Auburn, and just tell me about some of the highlights or memories you have from your time at playing college golf at Auburn.
My time at Auburn was fantastic. I loved it. I've met some of my best friends here. Obviously, I loved it enough, and I'm back working in town. I work with our old assistant coach, who is now our director of instruction. So obviously, we had a really great relationship, enough to work together professionally. Now, my old coach, um, the one who recruited me, Kim Evans, is still in the picture, and she's up at the club a lot, and I get to spend a lot of time with her. I still see the team whenever they come out and qualify at Morse Mill, which is great. Um, my favorite memory in my time at Auburn was then they surprised the juniors and seniors at our Christmas party my senior year with tea times at Augusta. Um,
Okay. Wow.
so that was my favorite college memory was getting to play Augusta with my coach or like our two coaches and the other junior and senior on the team at the time.
Well, that's pretty special. So something I wanted to touch on, about your time at Auburn. Just tell me about how did you navigate, how did you balance both your academics and, playing college golf, because with college golf, you're traveling a lot, going to tournaments,
Yeah.
missing some classes. So just how did you balance, your academics and playing, Division I college golf?
Oh man, I'm a big scheduler. Every year, at the start of the semester, I'd get the syllabus for every class, and I'd sit down with my calendar and I'd map out our
Hmm.
tournament dates and I'd map out our test dates for the class. I'd always make sure the professors knew who I were, or
Okay.
who I was. Sorry, I'd introduce myself first day of class and get to know them and be like, I'm a student athlete. Looking at my schedule, I'll probably be gone for XYZ dates. And a lot of them appreciated me just being proactive and reaching out. So I was, if I ever had any problems with testing, I was able to get them moved around our tournament schedule. And they were just so willing to work with me because I was very proactive. It took a lot of studying on the road, a lot of time when you'd rather, just be watching TV or hanging out to like devote to your studies. I remember being in the back of the van on the way home from the airport with like the singular little light on, like studying for a test the next day. So, you just got to do what you got to do and get the job done.
Yeah. So when you're at Auburn, you worked at golf camps at Auburn. You're now a teaching professional. So, first off, just tell me about getting to work golf camps at Auburn, and also working these camps. Tell me about how it influenced your decision to become a teaching professional.
I love teaching the camps. It was a really great experience. It was my first exposure to getting the opportunity to work and teach kids, which was fun. I never considered a career in teaching golf.
Okay.
Um, Andrew is Andrew Pratt is like the driving factor in me coming back to teach at Auburn. He saw that in me a really long time ago. I remember being a senior on the range hitting balls, and he's like, "What are you going to do, with life?" And I was like, "Well, I'm going to go to grad school." And he's like, "I think you would be a fantastic teacher." And I was like, "No, no, that's crazy, not me." Um, and just kind of let it go and went to grad school. And then I was working in international travel sales, and COVID hit, and I was back in Auburn for a wedding. And I went and visited him because we were still close. And he was like, "You know what? You should come and teach with me. It would be awesome. You would love it." And I was like, no way. That's crazy. I just got a promotion. I'm doing my thing. Like, where would I even start? And he called me back a couple weeks later and he was like, we really want you. Like, this is what you're going to do for you. We're going to do for you. And it was too good to be true. And so I moved back down and took the job and I fell in love with it and I've never looked back. So I have him to owe for seeing that in me and encouraging me and helping me learn that that was a big passion of mine. And now I want to do it forever.
Yeah. So ultimately, what influenced you to become a teaching professional, and ultimately, why did you decide, to become a teaching professional?
Coach Pratt was the biggest leading factor in encouraging me and seeing my, like knack for being around kids and wanting to teach, and my patience with people. Um, it was a pretty easy decision to make, to be honest with you. And the time I was living, I was living in Boston during COVID, which was very cold, and I was working in international travel sales, which you can imagine during COVID was not the best industry to be in. So I was looking, it was a welcome change. And yeah,
So you got your master's at the Catholic University of America. That's in DC, is that correct?
yes.
Yeah. So just tell me a little bit about getting your master's, and yeah, like what you got your master's in.
I got my master's in um, business analytics.
Okay.
It was a master of science in business or business analysis. So it was looking at business through the lens of Catholic social teaching, which I really enjoyed. It was an accelerated MBA, so it was a 9-month program, and it was the most intensive school that I'd ever experienced. I'm super grateful that I did it, and I learned a lot about myself and about business. So it was a great experience, but it was definitely very challenging.
Yeah. And for you, what's your goal always to get your master's? And then just tell me about, you went to school in Auburn, down in Alabama. Then what was it like to move back, and get your master's, in DC?
Uh, it was not always my goal to get my master's. At the time I
Okay.
finished playing, I wasn't really sure what I was going to do. I didn't think I was ready career-wise to go get a job. And I also knew, I had made the decision not to play professionally. So, and kind of in that limbo, grad school was the best option to kind of delay working and give myself a little bit more of an opportunity to figure out what I wanted to do. Um, the move from Alabama to DC was daunting. Like that was the first like big city I'd lived in. So
Okay.
that gave me a lot of experience living there and navigating driving in a city, like, public transportation, just being in a much busier world than Auburn, Alabama. That was the biggest place I'd lived
Yeah.
in my life on my own. So it was a great learning opportunity and lots of times for growth up there. Loved
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
So you worked in Boston for a few years after getting your master's. You obviously you're from Boston, then you moved to South Carolina. Went to school in, at Auburn, but then, after getting your master's, you returned to work in Boston, for your 3 years. So just tell me about, working in Boston, just what it was like to return, to Boston.
I was excited because a lot of my immediate family is up there. So the big
Yeah.
perk of being in Boston was getting to have more time with family. Definitely. My roommate I went to Auburn with and was a really good friend. So I was fortunate to have some community and friendship there as well. I worked a mile away, or I lived a mile away from where I worked. It was legitimately uphill both ways. But I would walk to work or ride my bike to work. There wasn't any transportation to get you right to the office. So um, great until it hit winter. And then you were walking in the snow and the dark to work. So, after the time change, you're getting up and you're getting to work in the dark and then you're leaving work in the dark. So it was definitely a big adjustment from the sunshine of the South. And yeah, took some time getting used to that for sure. But
Yeah.
the time around it really was nice to be there.
Yeah. And when you were working in Boston, did you mostly take time away from golf, or did you ever get to, playing golf? And did you remain competitive ever, after college golf, or did you take away time away from being competitive?
I actually played more golf in Boston than I did when I was in DC. When I
Okay.
was in DC for my master's, it was a really vigorous school, and I wasn't provided much balance or opportunity to do much else. But when I was in Boston, I had the opportunity to go practice and play a couple times. I went and played with my uncle. I went and played a couple courses around town um, for kicks, and it was expensive. That was my biggest barrier to going to play in Boston was like having to pay for all my rounds, as opposed to, being on scholarship and getting to go play and practice in school. So I didn't compete or anything in my time in Boston. It was more just a nice thing to do on the weekends to go play 9 holes or hit a couple balls here and there. So it was much very scaled down from what I was used to, but I definitely missed it and I didn't feel like I was doing as much as I wanted to with it. So I'm very happy to be back in the world of golf.
Yeah. So after working in Boston for a few years, or a teaching professional, in Auburn at Moore's Mill Club. So just tell me about, how did you become a teaching professional, after working in Boston, and just what was it like for you, to become a teaching professional?
Yeah, Andrew believed in me, and recruited me to come back and teach with him. And I shadowed him for a couple weeks and then had people start signing up for lessons to come and work with me. And it's really just trial by fire. And the more you do it, the more you understand and learn and, understand yourself and develop your methodology and teaching. So that's how I became a teaching pro. Um, and I love it.
Yeah. What was it like to return to Auburn, to teach at Moore's Mill Club? And can you just tell me a little bit about the club you teach at?
Yeah, it felt like coming home. Honestly, it was great to be back. At this point now, I've lived in Auburn, um, you know, the second longest of where I've, lived anywhere else in my life. So it's the longest place I've lived on my own. So Auburn is definitely home. I had a lot of friends still in town when I moved back, which was fantastic to be around them again. Um, Morse Mill is great. It's a private club with, over 1,200 members. We have two indoor outdoor hitting bays with like a big garage that goes up and you can hit out. We've got TrackMan and Swing Catalysts that we use in our lessons, as well as 3 different practice greens to be on. So it's a good practice area.
Yeah. And just, tell me about, how special is the Auburn area to you? And you're an Auburn alum, so, what does it mean to you to be an Auburn alum, and just how special is it, to return to and, work now in Auburn?
Yeah, well, people say, Auburn family, and it's really true. They really mean it. Um, the like, just it's such a special place to be. Like everyone cares for one another, and it's just even anywhere you go in the world, if you're wearing Auburn gear, like you get a War Eagle, and people just feel that sense of connection and pride for this area and their town. So it's it's really special to me, the community that's here, um, and what we're able to do. Yeah.
Yeah. So you work with, junior golfers, at Morris Mills Club, you run the PGA Junior League, you run camps, you do youth instruction. So just talk about some of the things that, you do for junior golf at Morris Middle School, and then just talk about your passion, for junior golf, just working with junior golfers.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's awesome. We teach everybody, so like men, women, children who come on in, but our real focus is the juniors and growing that. Andrew and I just have such a heart for it. We have over, I think right now, like in the peak of our fall, we had over 160 kids coming through a week to our different programs. We have programs for, kids ages 3 to 14. So we try to provide as many opportunities we can to get your kids going in junior golf and get them to love the sport.
Mhm. So just a few more things I wanted to touch on, Kelly. You're currently a PGA Associate Level 3. So tell me a little bit about that, the path you're on, and yeah, just tell me about how you became a PGA Associate.
Yeah, I decided to enter the program. Like this is something I want to pursue professionally, so it's something that a lot of people just like need or have in this field. Um, Having your PGA membership is pretty much like going back to school and getting another degree like your gen ed. Like, all right, this is the baseline of what you know, having gone through this program. Um, and so it's great if A, to have, and B, if you ever want to go anywhere else, to have on your resume for people to understand the extent of which you know.
Yeah,
I was really lucky that Andrew knew me and like vetted me and gave me the opportunity to be a teaching pro and have this job. But if I were to look anywhere else, they would definitely be wanting to make sure that you had that certification. It's a self-paced program. I've been in it for about 3 years now. I actually every level has a work portfolio, like manuals that you like quizzes that you take on the material as well as like a cumulative test. Um, and then you attend like a week long seminar on the information as well. So I just finished my level 3 portfolio and I'm waiting right now to hear approval. And if I'm approved, then I can take the final cumulative test over all the material. And if I pass that, then I'll be officially official um, and a full PGA member. So I'm very excited that that process is there's a light at the end of the tunnel.
yeah. So you're currently a PGA Associate Level 3. Just tell me about, what are the next steps for you, and what are some of the goals for you, in your instruction, career?
Yeah, great question. So I
Mhm,
I'm hoping to achieve my PGA status soon.
mhm.
Um, I my the next certifications I've got my eye on are TPI, which is the Titleist Performance Institute, and learning how people move and your body functions and how that plays into your swing and any limitations you might have. I would love to be director of instruction one day at a course. Um, Maybe run my own junior academy at some point. But yeah, those are some of my professional goals and where I look to be going.
Yeah, and just talk about, working with junior golfers, and, your passion for junior golf. Just, what do you enjoy most about getting to work with junior golfers?
Kids are awesome. They're so much fun. They just bring such a level of joy that that not maybe a lot of adults will bring to the course and to your
Yeah,
day. They're just excited to be there to listen, learn, and grow and get better. And I just want to make the game fun. Like this game has given me so much, and I know all the opportunities that it can provide. So I want to help juniors fall in love with the game that has given me so much.
yeah. And then some of your awards, you were selected as a top 50 U.S. kids coach for 2 years in a row. So just what did this mean to you,
Yeah,
to
I
get,
actually
this
just
recognition and, award?
yeah, I actually just found out that I got it a third time in a row.
Yeah.
So now I'm like a U.S. Kids Master Coach. So I'm really excited for that opportunity. I'm really grateful to have won that award. Um, go back to what your question was.
Oh, just tell me about, what does it mean to you to receive, an honor of, being a top 50 U.S. kids coach?
It's really humbling.
Hmm.
I'm super grateful for the opportunity to work with so many kids and that parents
Yep.
trust me and give me the chance to teach their kids. And I'm tickled that that's recognized.
Yep.
And it's just a cool opportunity. I love it so much, and it's cool to see that other people recognize and value that as well.
Yeah. So you just mentioned it, but this is one of my last questions I wanted to ask. You were recently just named a top 50 Master Kids Coach, for U.S. Kids Golf. So, just tell me a little bit about this. Tell me about, what is a Masters Kids Coach? Because I'm interested in learning about it, and then, just what is this, recent recognition? What does that mean to you?
Yeah, it's just someone who's won or gotten within the top 50 for 3 times.
Okay.
So once you've received the award 3 times, like on your third, you're considered a master coach, which is really special. So
Yeah.
again, I'm just honored to have been considered and honored to receive this award. I love junior golf and like junior, like coaching the juniors and getting them to see like getting them to see how excited they are when they bomb a drive or like make that first really long putt or whatever it is, and just to share in their success is the best.
Yeah. So final two questions I wanted to ask, just what are some of your special favorite memories or what is most special to you about, golf?
Ooh, in my professional career or in general?
It can be, any favorite memories or anything you've enjoyed, It can be coaching, it can be, playing at Auburn, it can be, growing up just playing junior golf. Just, tell me about some of your favorite memories from golf.
My favorite memory is probably just growing up playing with my dad.
Mhm.
He is again the biggest reason for my success and like believed in me and has helped give me all the opportunities that he could to be successful. So growing up with him was really special and getting to go to the course every day and practice with him. I'll just like never forget the time that we've spent together on the golf course, all of those years together. We played in a lot of parent-child tournaments as well. So just getting to spend as much as time as I could with my dad in this game.
Yeah, and finally, Kelly, just what do you enjoy most about golf? And, golf is, obviously, you work in golf now, so you made a career out of it. You played, Division 1 golf. Made some great memories. Just, what do you enjoy most about golf, and what does golf mean to you, personally?
I love all the time to be outside, personally. I love spending time outside and being out there. And golf too is just a great indication of who you are as a person. Like it helps you grow and just you can really see how someone conducts themselves on the course. You can see how they learn. You can see really who they are as people to their core. Like, do they accept criticism? Like, can they get over things? Can you um, be mentally tough? Can you find joy in what you're doing? Like, just golf teaches you so much about life. Um, and it's fun to grow on the golf course as well as grow as a person, like be patient and forgiving with your mistakes. Understand, what you need to be better, always striving for continued success, finding joy in being outside and spending time together. And yeah.